Okay, so for project 3, we're going to combine all of those elements as well as talk about a couple extra features like buttons and scenes. And this is where I feel like the capabilities of augmented reality really come out, because you're able to pack a lot of content into a small area for whoever's using your experience. I helped integrate this once with a museum exhibit, and it was really nice because we had so much content to share, but we didn't want to overload the user. So we were able to use this AR content so that if they wanted to learn more, they could scan it and the available content would be there for them without overwhelming them. So this final project is an interactive family tree where you can click through different people and see the content for each of them. The first thing we need to do is set up the tree with your content. And so I've created a blank version that you can find in the resources. Continuing to use Pixlr, which we used before. Go ahead and open this in the website. And there's some different configurations that you can download. First thing we can do is add some text. I'm just going to say Armstrong family. So we're going to bring this down here, and all of our content, our videos and pictures, are going to be in this open green space right here. So let me show you how to add these pictures, and I'll walk through with you with one or two, and then we'll kind of speed up the rest and you can do that part on your own. So I'm going to pull in a picture of my parents. That's what I've done this tree as. And we want to do the arrange button to bring it down. Now, when you have something like this where you're moving it down into shapes, a little trick is just to bring down the transparency. So we want to match this up just with the right spot on the circle until we know we have it. And then we will use the cutout tool. And we're going to use the shape cutout with the circle. And then it's a little tricky to get down the circle just right, but we're just going to do that. And then we're going to bring the transparency back up. Okay, and then I'll walk through that with you one more time for this second picture. So these are my grandparents. We're going to add current, make it a little smaller, lower our transparency till they fit in the circle. That's looking pretty good. Come over here to cutout, and it keeps our same settings as before, and try to grab our circle. I didn't quite get it as well, so I'm just going to try to compensate for that. Okay, so then to arrange, just going to drag it so it's over that circle, and then we bring the transparency back up. So one more thing we'll do, just since traditionally my dad's side is going to the left, I'm going to flip this image. Okay, so I'm going to fill in the rest of these pictures. Feel free to pause and take the time you need to fill in the rest of the pictures of your ancestors. Okay, so that completes the setup of the family tree. And again, you can set this up however you'd like. So now we've completed this. And before we download it, there's one more step. We want to add the zap code to the bottom of our picture. And so to do that, we're going to dive back into zap.works. So come here and create a new project. As usual, we'll call this project 3 and use the designer. And go to the next steps. We'll do the zap code, create the project. Okay, so we're going to open the designer. Download our zap code. We want the PNG. And sometimes, as I said before, this can take a little while. So sometimes I'll just click out and come over here to the bottom right. And this will let us download from a different spot, which just seems to have faster success sometimes. Okay, so now that we've got this, we'll jump back to our picture, and then we can drag this straight from our downloads bar down here. We're going to add current. We want to get this to the right size. So we'll zoom out a bit, pull this to the bottom, zoom back in. I'm just going to shrink it until it sits nicely in the bottom corner. And it doesn't always have to be in the bottom corner. I find that's a good spot, but feel free to put it where you would like. Okay, so now that that is all there, we're going to save this. Let's call it Project 3 Target Image. Make it a JPEG, and I think medium should be fine. So we'll go ahead and download that. So now that we have all this, we can take this and bring it into ZapWorks and start preparing our content. So now that we finished our target image, we're going to go in and upload what we just finished. So you can hit download and then just hit continue and kind of speed past this. And so we want to hit upload tracking image like we've done in the past. Select the target image that we built and upload that. Gives us good contrast. So we're going to use this. Okay, so now that we're done processing, the first thing we want to do, zoom in a little bit here, is we want to create buttons for each person. So we're going to do it like we did previously, where each person is going to have their own scene. But before we duplicate the scenes, we want to make sure that all the buttons are in. Okay, so we're going to start adding buttons. So come down here. First I'm going to have this button for my parents, Dave and Betty Ann, and naturally this is too big, so we're going to shrink it down until we see it a little better down there. And then what we need to do is do the same thing for each of these other family members. So I'll speed this part up. Okay, so now that we have everyone named and all the buttons set up, we can start creating a scene for each of these individual couples. Again, I did this as couples, but you're welcome to do it as individual people. So this is scene 1. I'm just going to call this sort of the home page. This is what it will look like with nothing on it. And then we just click here. We want to hit duplicate scene. And we'll go in that same order. These are my parents. And they will call this Dave and Betty. So now we have our home page, Dave and Betty. And so then we just have to duplicate the scene another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times until there's a scene for each one of these people. So we'll go ahead and speed that up again. Okay, so now we've created a scene for each couple. So before we add content, we unfortunately have one more slightly tedious set of tasks to do, and that is we need to go through each scene and make sure that each of these buttons will go to the correct scene. So if we're on the home page or any other scene, right, we want to be able to click on any one of these buttons. So the way we're going to do that, it makes it nice because all the buttons that are on the scene are down here. So if we just click on this first one, we're going to go to scene. And then from here, we can activate all the actions. Looks like some of them are And we just want to make sure that each of these buttons is going to the right scene. Okay, so we've done that, and each of these buttons should be activated. But then we need to go through each one of these individual scenes and do the same thing. So pause it. All right, we're going to say go to scene. I'm going to speed through these and meet you on the other side. Well, if you're like me after that, your wrist is a little tired. But luckily we are now at the point where we can start bringing in content. Finally, we can get into the more interesting part where we're putting on content and developing the experience. So I'm not going to go through and add content to each of these, but I'm going to show you a few examples of how you might set it up. So for Ellis and Florine, I'm going to try a couple different media examples. And remember, we have this area down here to put our content. We could also put it to the right or left, but we'll try and keep most of it in here. So the first thing I'm going to add is a photo album. Okay, so we got these photos. We're going to make our slideshow from here. So we hit Use Selected Images. So we can place this and scale it down. And remember, if you're having trouble selecting it, make sure you scroll all the way up. For some reason, it sometimes has trouble. What is not doing this? So we're going to set this slideshow right here at the beginning. We also have some sound, and I've uploaded this previously. So this is the introduction of a speech that my grandpa gave, and it's just a small part of it. And we also want to add some text just so people know what this is. So this is Ellis' speech. And if you're doing sound or even video for that matter, it's good to let people know how long they're going to be there. And then if you're doing something like this, one thing I did for another project was solicit a bunch of my nieces and nephews to make short videos about each of our ancestors. And so we had a lot of the grandkids make these short videos. So this one is from my daughter, and she's talking about Florine, my grandma. Now that's uploaded. Sometimes depending on the size of the video, it can take just a moment to show up. There we go. Again, as I said, we could place things over here if we needed more space, but for now this should be good. So that's one scene. Just to show you what it looks like with multiple scenes, I'll jump over and I'll upload another video from my niece. And we'll let this upload. And just to remind you, remember that if you're putting a lot of videos and pictures, make sure you are compressing the videos as much as possible. So this is my niece talking about my great grandpa Sam. And so this is one, with these we don't want to play it on the start because people will be clicking around and it can be kind of overwhelming. So we'll leave that off and let them play it when they need to. So again, there's a variety of things that you can include. Let's say you want to send someone to a website from their phone. We can add a button that goes here. So once there, we can come back over here to actions, and instead of sending them to a scene, we can link to. So I've just gone and grabbed the information from FamilySearch. We'll come back here, open in an external browser. So let's publish this and see what it looks like. As that's publishing, one thing to keep in mind, and I'm not as familiar with how it works on Android, but I know for iPhone, if you're doing anything with sound, you want to make sure that before you scan your target, the sound on your phone is turned on. Otherwise, it won't work. So we can now print this out. This is our tracking image, but just to save time, I'm going to pull it up just on the computer to show you what it will look like. Okay, so again, we're going to go to web.zapper.com. So since we have a lot more content on this target image, it is going to take a little longer to load. I also have a very slow internet speed, so that also will affect it. So you can see that the buttons are now active. So we're going to go to those pages. So I'm going to click on Ellis and Florine, and there is our content. So this is what it looks like. We can click on this slideshow and swipe through these pictures. Or we can play the speech.
He is a native of Cedar City, Utah.
So that's great. This video should work.
She has brown curly hair like me. And one day she went out to the hitching post, and there was this horse man, and then
Right, so then all we have to do is click on the other buttons. And you can see our...
This is my great-great-grandpa, Samuel Clark. He was born in Utah, just like me,
And then we can just show you that last one, which was the internet site that we went. It's going to prompt us to go to this external website, and that brings us directly there. So as you can see, this is really cool. There's so much potential for it. I hope that as we've gone through these projects that I've been able to spark your imagination for what's possible. My real goal was just to give enough foundation so that people can start creating. Thank you all so much for coming. I really hope these were helpful to you. Please come check us out at FamilyHistoryExperiences.com, where we're going to try to collect a lot of these kinds of experiences with directions and a community that hopefully we can support each other. Please enjoy the rest of the conference, and don't be afraid to send me a message.